July 24 again, there was that thing with the U.S. and Mexico.
Ah, yes. That was about preventing China from getting around U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum.
How? By shipping through Mexico.
Potentially, yeah. The idea was for the U.S. and Mexico to work together to close off any routes or loopholes that might let Chinese steel and aluminum avoid the U.S. tariffs. Shows they're trying to make sure the tariffs stick.
Got it. So if we kind of zoom out, what's the bigger economic picture here? Is it confusing things?
Well, it certainly seems to be adding complexity. There was a comment from a Federal Reserve official or around May 12th this year, saying it's actually become hard to judge the underlying strength of U.S. growth.
Because of all this uncertainty.
That's likely a factor, yeah. These trade dynamics create ripples. Although, interestingly, around that same time, there was also a feeling that maybe a sort of U.S.-China truce had, cooled the trade war down a bit.
A temporary cooling, maybe, given everything else we've discussed?
Seems that way. And remember, last August, the U.S. Trade Representative, the USTR, said a decision on those Section 301 tariffs was imminent. We haven't seen the absolute final word from these specific reports, but it just highlights this is ongoing. Things keep shifting.
Normally not static.
Not at all. It's this constant back and forth. Tariff tweaks, talks, economic reactions, and it impacts, well, pretty much everyone globally.
Okay, so quick recap then. We've got some U.S. tariff delays, but also increases. Talks are happening, but China's core demand for tariff removal remains.
And economic moves on both sides, China cutting rates, the U.S. adjusting that de minimis threshold for China, plus efforts to stop tariff dodging.
Right, and all this is playing out against an economic backdrop that's maybe harder to read because of these very issues.
Exactly. The full impact is still unfolding.
So for you listening, it's worth thinking about how these policy shifts could eventually filter down, affecting supply chains, the cost of goods, how companies operate globally. It really drives home how connected everything is.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. How might this persistent tension, these ongoing adjustments, ultimately reshape global trade patterns and consumer markets in the longer run? That's the big question, really.